I'm handing over the reins to Christina.
Thank you for coming to Internet Search Hack Part 2. I'm going to share what I have for today. So Internet Search Hacks Part 2 by me, Christina Adams, and Dr. Karen Caldwell. And for this week, we're just going to go over a few things that we went over last week to kind of just as a reminder of what we learned about internet hack. And then we're going to learn some new Google Scholar hacks and about the bottom line in the search results. There's like a line of dark that has a lot of secret hacks to it, really helpful in your searches. Quotation marks, information management, the Google News button, and we'll talk about Google versus Google Scholar. And we'll offer you some additional tutorials from the SUNY Potsdam Library about internet search. So to get started, we had the top 5 search hacks for digital searching last week. And I was wondering if to get started, we could name the Boolean operators that directed our search results by either broadening or narrowing our. And if you know the answer, you can put it in the chat, or you can just unmute and shout it out.
I think maybe we can move on.
Yep.
Oh, wait, Melissa's typing. Oh, there we go.
Awesome. All right.
Oh, and I think, Erin, you had something?
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. So those are Boolean operators. And is the one that narrows your search by making sure that the article has both of the topics combined in it, whereas or is the one that could have one topic or the other, so it kind of doubles your search. And then there were synonyms, which kind of give the internet more options to choose about the same topic, but just using different words. And if you put your or searches in parentheses, it tells the search to use your all of the words in between parentheses. So it would give you a much broader search. Thank you for playing Boolean trivia.
Yeah, they both won. They both get more brownie points.
And then so the other old hack from last week was adding Google Scholar to the library and setting up the search alert. So if anybody wanted to describe one of those in the blue or the green, just unmute it and shout it out, or put it in the chat.
Even if you just want to explain the why behind it, if you don't want to explain how to do it, why would you want to add a library, the SUNY Potsdam Library, to Google Scholar? What value does that have? And the same with setting up a search alert. Why would that be of value?
Yep. Erin says a search alert can inform you of new information. So it'll do the searching for you while you sleep, and then you can just check your email in the morning and they'll be alert about what you're looking for.
Maybe you can demonstrate later in your other hacks related to the library. You could just point it out in your demos.
Okay. And the Google Scholar, adding it to the library, I guess one of the reasons that we would do that was because it would give us access to articles that you would normally have to pay for. If you were doing research and you were looking for scholarly journals and articles, sometimes you have to pay just to read. This way you get some free stuff.
And just as a reminder, folks, even after you graduate and you lose your access to the library, you will still know people who have access to the library. So keep that library in your Google Scholar system. And when you find resources that you need that you are behind a paywall, you just reach out to anybody you know who has access to the SUNY Potsdam Library or another library. And this happens on Twitter all of the time, by the way. I follow a lot of highfalutin researchers who have left higher education, and they'll just put out a call. Can someone help me with this article? I see that it's at SUNY Potsdam, Johns Hopkins, and this library. Would anybody help? So it's really helpful to put those specific libraries in the your Google Scholar ecosystem. And hello, Lindsay.
And if anyone wanted to,
Hello.
Hi, thank you for coming. If anyone wanted a demonstration or read that out, I'd be happy. So has anybody used any hacks this week?
This will show who leads the most exciting life, really. Melissa, no, not yet.
Okay. You
Not
don't have
yet.
to confess if you've been secretly Googling Midnight Google Scholar. All right. And
I'll just mention that, sorry, Christina, in all of my classes, in the coming week? Okay, so Erin, you have looked at academic journals. Excellent. In the coming weeks, you'll be using Google Scholar. In our policy class, next week, you'll create your annotated bibliography and you'll need to use Google Scholar. And then as you move along in the leadership class, Google policy class, and advanced instructional design, you should kind of get into the habit of diving back in to see, if a certain topic has been covered by research. So hopefully it'll be more beneficial over the coming weeks, but there's a reason we timed it right now because there are projects coming up in all of those classes.
So this brings us to our first hack. Now that even if you're new to Google Scholar, you might glance past this bottom line in the dark print. It's at the bottom of every search result, but this line offers a number of tools that can help you find and organize your information. Are there any guesses as to what the function of the star icon next to the yellow arrow might be for? You can put it in the chat or just shout it out, like favorite for Mark or mark it a reading. Basically, yep, it's the save button. And so when you click on this little star in Google Scholar, it'll save your article for you. Give you an example of that. You just click the star below the citations, and it'll save it to your item to my library. And then there's a checkbox next to each citation and select it for download. And you can even export it. So I'll go ahead and show you.
And while you're opening that other screen, I just want to differentiate. There's one confusing bit in Google Scholar with the word library. Here, when it's saying save to my library, it's like your own filing system. It's not your SUNY Potsdam Library or your Clarkson Library or SUNY Canton. In this case, when you click the star and it says save to my library, it's like your own little filing cabinet within Google Scholar, another space for you to save your work.
Can everyone see my Google Scholar page?
Yes.
So if I go to save, I click the star, and then there are some options, reading lists, Canine Studies. I created this Canine Studies as a folder, but you can create a new one, and you could just keep it separate. If you wanted to classify your own more, you just check that box or whichever one you want it to save to, and you hit done, and it's done.
And if you look at Christina's screen, in the upper right corner, it says My Library. So that's where she'll have her list of items that she has saved there. So you can see.
So these are the things that I in the library.
And maybe here, Christina, you could just demonstrate the information in the rightmost column there, where it shows SUNY Potsdam and Clarkson, just as a quick reminder.
On this here?
Yeah.
Oops.
Or just that same screen there that you had. This one will do.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that one there.
This one here?
Sure.
Okay. So when I hit the double arrows, because I have two libraries saved onto my my library links, I have the SUNY Potsdam and the Clarkson Library. There's a set of double arrows to indicate that there's more than one place that I can find them. So there's 8 versions of this, and I can find some at Clarkson University. So if I hit that, I don't think it, there, it'll just show me. So it'll show you where you can find it kind of close, right, to where you are, and give you options again to find it for free. That is the first of the hack, save. So if we should give it a try. If you guys want to go to your Google Scholar and just enter a topic that you are interested in, and click on the star of one of the articles that you want to try to save, and just maybe create a category for your search, and go ahead and give it a try.
Yeah, we will set aside I guess maybe 2 minutes for you to do that. It's really worth giving a try now and saving 1 or 2 articles that are of value to you. You can go back later and delete them. That's the important thing, is if you're just in a hurry, it's a quick thing and then you remove them. So I'm going to stop talking for 2 minutes.
And I put the instructions back up in case you wanted to follow. And if you're finished too, you can just indicate that you've already done it.
Hi, Laura. We're just doing a quick practice of using that save button in Google Scholar.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Hi,
That's
Laura.
good. Hello.
Okay, we're all set, Christina. That's 2 minutes.
So the first one was to save. And then right next to the star, there are a set of quote marks. Does anyone know what that might be for? You can put it in the chat or you can shout it out. Tough one. So this is the reference citation. So when you click on these little quotation marks, it'll display a pop-up with commonly citation formats: MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard, Vancouver. For me, when I first started the graduate program, it was was because I hadn't written a lot of academic papers, I guess. Citations were really difficult for me, and I was never confident that I had it right. And I wished I'd known. When you click on this site, this pops up, and you can see it provides each citation in each format. So you can just choose the one that you like, copy it and paste it to your references, and then you have it, and it's properly done for you.
And it's
Great.
as easy as just clicking on that actual, like where it says APA, that's what I use all the time. And it selects the entire APA reference. So you just literally, as Christina said, paste it into your Word document and you're done.
Yeah, I always used to look it up and cite this for me. There's like a website you can enter it, but sometimes it takes a lot of extra, looking up the author and all that stuff. So it's right there.
Yeah,
And then
it's all in one spot.
Yes. So cited by is kind of self-explanatory. Other people who have cited a paper. So when you click on cited by, my animation is done. So when you click on the cited by, it lists works that recently cited this same. So if it kind of gives credibility to an article if other people have cited it also, and they might be authors or researchers that you're familiar with, or kind of like working on the same topic. So it is kind of a good thing to know if people are actually using this work or think it's valuable.
So if I could just add here, Christina, so folks, when you find a study that you think this is ticking all the boxes, it includes the issue, it includes mention of policy and legal issues and all of these things, just as an example. When you find one research study, stop right there and mine these resources that Christina is talking you through, because it will take you to other studies that are directly related to that one really good one. So really, if you start with one solid find after some searching and narrowing using those Boolean operators, when you find a good study, this is where you're going to stop and say, okay, let me cite it and put it in my Word document. Let me save it. And now when you click on cited by, you can see who else has cited it and even go more narrow. So if you think about a funnel, and at the top of that funnel is this really good study. Now it's going to give you a list of studies that have cited it, have already read it and been published more so. And it might even include more specific context related to what you're researching. The key is, and what I want to point out on the screen here is in this bottom section here of the findings. So you're going to click on the cited by link. It'll open a new window and give you this list. But then there's this button that Christina is pointing to with her cursor that says search within these articles. And this is where I used to go wrong all the time. So it'll open a new window and I used to think, okay, so within this, I want to know, is it only female employees? So in the search box, I would put female employees, but then it would take me to a brand new search completely unrelated to the past one. So this is where I had to backtrack and realize, I didn't tick that little box that said search within those articles. So think again like a funnel and getting narrower and narrower with the one good study that you have found. Because when you find a good study, you can mine it for so many different resources using these hacks that Christina's demonstrating. And one last hack that I want to point out is that when you open that study and you go to the last page and they've got their own list of references, those are more studies that are relevant to what you're looking for. So this is going a bit beyond what you'll need for the projects that you do in my class. But when you really want to give a lot of evidence for an argument you're making, you can look back by looking at that list of references in the article itself, and then use these great hacks that Christina is showing you to see, okay, now I'm looking forward. After this study was published, these other studies cited it, and I can get more narrow. And Laura, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm always challenged to know which reference to cite. In other words, I wonder sometimes I see something referenced in an article, and then it's actually citing something else. So then I'm going to that, and then so do I guess I'm always curious about like which one I should actually be referencing, or is it okay to cite something that is citing something else? Do you know what I mean? Or do you have to go to the original source?
I have two answers. If you're doing your doctorate, or if this is very high stakes, such as a legal or major policy decision, you need to spend the time going to that original source. And I just had a discussion in the policy class with a student named Storm, and I was explaining the difference between primary research and secondary. So what you're talking about is secondary, where, let's say I write an article and I cite Laura Perry and I cite Erin Jacobs and Lindsay Daniel and Christina Adams. So I'm looking at their research. But if I'm making a legal decision, or if I'm doing my doctorate, I want to go and see what Lindsay wrote originally and interpret it for myself. And I want to see what Christina wrote and make sure that it's saying what, because we all have bias and we all cherry pick findings. So my main question when you reach that fork in the road is, what are the stakes and what kind of a degree are you doing? For a master's degree, if you're using a reputable study that's been cited by a lot of people and you've researched the author, that's fine. That's secondary research, 100% fine for your master's degree. In the workplace where you're signing on the dotted line, I would highly recommend you do that deep dive and say, yeah, I can sleep well. I looked at all of the primary research as far as I could go. And if you're doing your doctorate, you will get called on it. They'll be like, really? You're that lazy? You could not go and find those original articles? I've heard that expression directed at me before, some of my first papers. So it really depends on the stakes attached to what you're developing. So in my projects, for my courses, if you find a good study, that's fine. Use that good study. As long as you research the author and it's been cited by a few other people, you're golden. No need to go further.
Okay, that helps.
Good.
Thank you. So that was the cited by one. That's how it came out. Okay. And then related articles. So related articles just gives us similar articles with the same searches, same top, different, it's kind of like shopping on Amazon. They give you the stuff at the bottom and different version. And that's what happens. If you click on it, related articles, you just get a new list of search results. So those were bottom line hacks. And then I have this question about quotation mark. What's the difference if you enter ecological systems theory in the search bar, or you enter it ecological theory quotation? If you know, you can just shout it out or type it in.
Okay, I see Erin is typing in, and I think Laura, narrows the research further. Yes. And the keyword in Erin's response, I'll read it for the folks who are watching the recording. She wrote that it narrows the research further to specifically target ecological systems theory. The first option brings everything with those words. So because ecological comes first, and that's from Erin, that's not from Karen. So good job, Erin. The first option where there are no quotation marks, Google sees ecological. So it'll give you Greenpeace. It will give you the Canadian Environmental Association. It'll give you all sorts of hits that have a high number of this of instances of this word. Oh, and it happens to have systems on another page. Oh, and on another page in the footer, it has the word theory. So it'll give you a gazillion hits because you're not really telling it anything narrow other than try to find something with these three words. The other one with the quotation mark gives you only what's within the quotation mark, spelled exactly that way in the same order. It doesn't worry so much about capital letters or lowercase letters. That's not at all a factor. It's what are those letters, the spacing, and the order and the spelling. So you might be looking for a specific product that is spelled a certain way and it's intentionally misspelled. If you find that Google is correcting your spelling and giving you all sorts of hits with the correct spelling, use quotation mark with the incorrect spelling. And to give this specific example, if you're taking my policy class and you're trying to get a bit of extra information about ecological systems theory, if you enter the first search term, it'll give you any of the over 1,000 search systems theories that are out there. I kid you not, there are more than 1,000 systems theories. And the one we're focusing on in class is just one specific kind that's quite unique called ecological systems theory. So that's why it's better to use it in quotation marks so you get only hits that talk about this type of, this specific type of theory. And Christina and I were talking earlier and we agreed that it's kind of like giving your blood type to Ancestry.com or giving your DNA sequence. And it just narrows it down to that point where it's a certain order and spelling and collection of words at together within those quotation marks. And this works not just within Google, but within a document, within your own computer system if you're looking for a certain name. And if I do this one more time, I'm going to slap my own knuckles because it's kind of cliche. And I think I've over-explained it. So I'll hand back over to you, Christina.
Thank you. So the next section of this session is about information management and file structure within the OneDrive cloud. Quotations are powerful.
Oh, wait, who said that?
Laura.
Oh, Laura, you too get brownie point. This is like the nerd club tonight, right? Christina, would you like me to describe this?
Sure. I do want to say that when I first started taking classes, I did not know much about saving my stuff in OneDrive or making a link and sharing it or any of that. And it's a skill that has really made a difference in everything that I do. So great thing to do. Don't do it already.
And I have heard that in interviews, even for entry-level positions, people are being asked about what they know about. It's called either knowledge management, information management. There are a few other terms, but the more you can speak to how well organized you are with data, and you know also about data security, but at minimum, every organization has a file structure for saving private or confidential or password protected files, and a naming structure. So you'll notice with my assignments, I ask you to use a particular naming structure for your Word document. That's not just because I'm a nerd, but it's also setting you up for having that requirement when you enter the workplace. So what I wanted to demonstrate here is my structure as an academic person on the student side, first and foremost, and also as an instructor. So you'll see that I organize my files according to semester, and I do that in two different ways. On the left, you see my semester folders, and they go by year and then the semester. And you'll notice that I add a number between the year and the semester, and that's because automatically OneDrive will default to alphabetical order. And if I didn't add that number, it would give me 2022 fall, then spring, then summer. And that would make my brain itchy and I would probably lose sleep. I like it to be in order chronologically. So I add the extra number. So spring is 01, summer 02, and fall is 03. In the end, it actually eases the cognitive load that you have when you're already busy with ideas in your head. You don't want extra burdens trying to make sense of things in your file. So you'll see that I created a sample folder for you folks, but I did want to point out that 0, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3 is consistent. Especially when I'm a student, it was helpful. So now if I do a deep dive into this sample folder, I've set one up that would look like a typical spring semester for me. And again, I use the numbers, put them in order, but it doesn't really matter at that point. Now within my leadership folder, I have a special, for me as a student, my most important file is my assignments. That's where I get my grade. So I label that 00 and then whatever I want to call it related to assignment. And then I have another folder where I want all the PDFs of any readings from, and then the rest is kind of a different structure for most classes, but I do try to include the week number. But what's more important is you can see I've put keywords here beyond week 1, week 2, week 3. I've put words that means something. So when I quickly glance at it, I know I'm not going to remember what week 1 was, but oh yeah, we defined leadership. We looked at history and we looked at certain concepts. Same thing with the policy class. Again, I always put, as a student, I put my assignments at the very top so I find them easily, and I label them 00. And then the rest, I just add very specific words to help me remember, oh, it was in that week that we looked at that bullying example. So I just wanted to point that out, that this is how I organize even my sub-files, usually starting with a number 00 for the most important thing that I go to all of the time. Back to you, Christina.
So I just also wanted to add to that for some of my classes. I know that when we make our projects, especially if they span over a long, like course of a few weeks, we would start like a folder, and then for the for that whole project. And then each week you would add another folder that would have the doc to that folder, and they kind of like nested in between. So when you turned in the project, you just turned in a link to the main folder, and then all of your other stuff was kind of just neatly organized by week. It was good. And it was good to refer to. Like if you go back and you needed something that you worked on last year, it's all neatly kept together. Very helpful.
That is really helpful. And I didn't know about that, Stina. And I wanted to add that for all of my class, you should be researching the organization. So within your project folder that Christina just mentioned, you should have one folder that's for all the background information you're collecting. And you can have two folders, one about the organization and one about the topic or the problem or the issue at minimum, because you'll be gathering a lot and it's easier to just dump it into folders related to that. That's helpful to have a project folder.
So the next section is about Google Scholar, or both. So I guess it just depends, which one you probably wonder to yourself, what do I use? Which one should I start with? Which one works better for my topic? And I'll let Karen give us the answers.
I love these topics, as you know. So by index, that simply means like taking an inventory. So some search engines cast a really wide net, and they actually download the content that's on the internet so they can search it on their own servers. So that's basically what index calls. So does Google do that only, or does Google Scholar do that for all of the online sources? Any guesses whether it's one or the other or both or neither? It's a really cool process if you're ever interested. So the quick answer is that, oh, sorry, Laura?
I was going to say that it does index resources by relevance. Yeah.
Gotcha. Which one?
Google does? Is that the question?
That is the second question, yeah. So again, for this one, it depends, but I'll quickly go to the first one and say that neither Google nor Google Scholar indexes all online sources. There are some sites that have special blockers to not be findable through search engines, but Google does have the market on over 90% of the content online. Google Scholar, on the other hand, we know that it looks at scholarly work, including legal work. It also looks at legal cases. So if you're looking at laws or different policies and procedures that have a legal underpinning to them, that's what you would use Google Scholar for. But it doesn't scan all of the journals. It just simply, a lot of them are, behind a paywall. So it does many, but it doesn't promise to give you findings from all the journals. So if you're in a highly specialized field, that would be something to speak to your librarian about and go deeper through a library. But Google Scholar does have broad coverage, and Google itself does cover about 90% of the internet. And so Laura's question with how does prioritize, that means like the order of the hit. In general, do you want to comment further on that, Laura?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So Google Scholar does a lot of thinking for you about how relevant is this to your search. So sometimes your top hit will be from 1998, but it includes all of your search terms, and it's cited by 6,000 people. So that means it's telling you this is a really good one. Look into this one. So Google Scholar, you should trust its ranking system initially. The relevance that the set of criteria that it uses includes looking even at the authors themselves a little bit. So it's worth looking at the first few hit carefully. Google, on the other hand, it depends on what kind of a search you're doing. So if you're looking for the meaning of a word, it really narrows it to things like dictionary entry. But if you're looking at an organization such as Amazon, it's going to give you what Amazon has paid handsomely to show you and to put sort of above the fold. We use that expression that comes from the newspaper world, where the newspaper is usually folded in information that is above the fold is what everybody's going to at least glance at. So a lot of organizations pay a little bit more, plus they have certain under the hood elements of their website called SEO that will automatically bump their findings or their site to the top. So you have to be more careful with Google and use those Boolean search terms more intentionally, so that it's not just people who have paid to be on your search hits, but also that are more relevant to your search. And that brings me to us to the final question there about a news category. and we want to show you the Google News category to help you narrow your search. So as you can see, we have Kraft Heinz in upstate New York. And look, it gives you their beautiful website, which you will need to go to. You want to look at their company profile, their vision statement, their core values. You do want to explore the company itself. But again, the bigger companies have paid and have certain search or SEOs, search engine optimization features that are always going to bump up certain more favorable, positive hits for you to look at. So if you click on the news button, which many of us overlook, I tend to go straight for images. But if you click on the news item, it brings everything up that is unfiltered, that it's been in the news about. So this is something to keep in mind. If you don't set up a Google alert for it, at least you can pop in regularly and see what has it been in the news for. And if you look, it gives you very recent news items, such as 6 hours ago or 8 hours ago. And it just so happens that these are kind of positive ones initially, but typically when I look at a company's news button, I don't have to go far using that button to find something that they may not have wanted everybody to see. It also helps you prepare for job interviews when you're preparing for a company. Maybe you haven't had time to set up Google alerts for them. You can at least go in and look at something that they've been in the news for, and you can mention that in the interview, and they'll be surprised that you're already aware that their share prices are up or that they just made this major acquisition in the last few months. So it's a really good feature for you to keep on your radar. Over to you, Christine.
Thank you. So that kind of summarizes like when to use Google and Google Scholar. If you want to get background on an organization, you can use the Google News button, and then intel on an author. I don't think I didn't go over that yet, or research by a specific author. No. So to do an author, to research a specific author, you can go to Google and you can put the author in quotation mark and then put that in, and then it will kind of direct you to the results that way. So you get specific results about the author. And I'm not sure, like the quality and trustworthiness of a research paper, I guess we would choose Google Scholar. How about contact details for an author or organization? Does anyone know? Any guesses what they would do? Which one? Contact details for, yeah, I agree, Google. And legal legislative background on an organization, or person, or topic. Any guess? Yeah, you could use both. I know, well, and also that Google Scholar has the case or the law cases. There's a box check for that too, which would be helpful. But yeah, you could definitely use both. So
sorry, Christina, could I just add one more thing on that other screen? So items 2 and 3, especially in my policy class, but for everybody doing research, always need to do some intel on the author. Very often published research, even if it's through Google Scholar, can be by someone who has been funded by industry. So imagine you're looking at pesticide and you research an author and you see that they are funded by Monsanto, for example. You wouldn't find that in Google Scholar, but if you take that extra step, you'll find out, oh, wait, there's a bit of a conflict of interest here. So again, much like the question Laura asked earlier about when do you do that deep dive? You see that they cited this other study. Do I go to that study? This is the same thing. It depends on the state of the research that you're doing and the decision you're making. But typically intel on an author, just as Christina said, you're going to find really good online articles in Google itself. Maybe a study professional development that was done at an organization that may not be in Google Scholar, but you still want to look at the author, and that's where the quotation will work, plus clicking on the news, because typically when you put someone's name in, you'll get their LinkedIn profile, links to Facebook, or 411 to get their phone number, and if you pay extra. But that's all about the social side of things, because Google knows that those are the top hit and they're funded. They get funding from LinkedIn, for example. You want to go deeper. That's where, again, you can click on the news button and also do a quick search in Google Scholar. And I think Christina pointed out in the hits that you get for Google Scholar, very often the name of the author is underlined. When you click on that, it will take you to a list of all their publications, and you'll see like, okay, this isn't their first rodeo. They've published before. So that's all I wanted to add. Sorry.
Thank you. So in addition to the hacks that we have provided, there are a bunch of strategies that are already available by tutorial video at the SUNY Potsdam Library. And so we've provided a link to that. But if you just go to the SUNY Potsdam Library page, you will find all of these. And does anyone have any questions? No?
No questions. A lot of good information here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
For sure.
So there's an Internet Search Skills Take 2 survey post session. And if you could just complete the survey, we're using this information to make more of these workshops. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, we'll give folks
Thank
time to
you.
complete that. Yeah, thanks everybody. And your answers last time were really, really helpful for our planning of this session. And we had such a thing. Our pleasure. Thanks for coming, Lynn. Yeah, we'll appreciate seeing you. We'll look forward to seeing your responses to the survey. And then, this is something Christina's working on and continuing to research so we can create other workshops and resources for you.
Okay, great. We'll sign off and finish the survey. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Good to see you, Laura.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Stop recording.